Hello friends, today we are discussing about exception handling in Python programming language. So, in our sixth chapter, there is one topic exception handling in the Python, and the outcome of that topic is to handle the given exception through Python program. So after learning this topic, you will be able to handle the given exception through your Python program. So let us start with the exception handling. First of all, you should know the meaning of exception. Exception can be defined as any abnormal condition in a program resulting to the disruption in the flow of the program. That means whenever any program is executing and if any exception occur, then if it is handled in the program itself, then it will give you proper message and then user will enter the proper input. But if it is not handled in the program, then program may stop the execution or it may crash. So whenever an exception occurs, the program halts the execution and thus further code is not executed. Thus, exception is that error which Python script or any programming language is unable to tackle with. But exception in the code can also be handled, and in case if it is not handled, then the code is not executed further and hence the execution stops. So at that time we can say the program is partially executed and not completely execution. So to execute the program completely and to considering all the probability of entering the improper input from the user, we have to write the exceptions and we have to handle that exceptions in our Python program. So some of the exceptions which are inbuilt exceptions present in the Python programming language are zero division error, which occur when a number is divided by zero, name error when the variable is declared but not declared but it is used, indentation error, that means no proper indentation is provided in the Python program. IO error means when input output operations are written wrongly or correctly. EOF error, it occurs when end of file is reached, still some operations on the file are going on. So these are some sample or general exception that we use in our Python programs. Some other exceptions are also available in the Python program, but before that we should be able to write our own exceptions and we should be able to handle the exceptions in the Python programming language. So let us start with the exception handling in the Python programming language. So in Python we use try except block to handle the exception. The syntax is given here. Two keywords we have to use here. First is try. In front of that we have to use the colon and then we'll write the code that we have to monitor for the exception. That means the code which may contain the exception that we have to write inside the try block. And second is except. In front of except, if you know the exception name, then you can write it and then colon, and after that you can write the message to the user so that user will come to know that what happens with the execution of the program. So in summary, the malicious code or the code having exception is enclosed in the try block. The try block is followed by the except statement which specifies the exception which occurred. In case that exception is occurred, the corresponding statement will be executed. That means not always except block will be executing, but try is always executing the statement written inside it. Except will execute only when the exception is thrown by the try block. That means the code within the try block is executing and some exception occur, then only the except block will be executing. And for single try block, there may be multiple except blocks present. So we'll take the example of first simple try and except, and then we'll go for one try and multiple except statement. So our first example is to input two numbers from user and then we will accept the exception. So let us start with, suppose number 1 is equal to input enter first number. Now as this is the number, we have to use casting here. Then suppose number 2 is equal to int input second number. Suppose now I want to make a division, and that I want to write inside the try block. So number 1 divided by number 2, and of course the except block is compulsory for the try block. The exception name is 0 division error. You can see here that whenever we write the exception name, the color changes. So these are all inbuilt exception names, and here you can give the message to the user that what happening here. So suppose division by 0 error. Let us run this. Enter first number. Suppose if I enter here 12 and then I write here 4, then I'll get the answer. But if I write here 24 and if my second number is 0, then of course I'll get the message which is written inside the except block. Now suppose I run this program and my first number is any character, then of course I'll get the error. Now this is not exception, this is error, because I am entering the wrong input. So this may happen that at the time of entering the input, user may enter a wrong input. So to monitor these two statements also, how to use a try block, and I'll use and write these two statements inside the try block. Now here also the proper indentation should be there, otherwise it will give you indentation error. Now see, suppose I run this and at the time of entering first number I enter some character, then also I am getting here error, and that error is value error. So of course in this code also I have to throw the exception value error, and then I'll write the proper message for that value error exception. So now like 0 division error, I write the value error exception, value error, and here I'll give the message that wrong input. Suppose I run this program and my first number is suppose any character, suppose G, so I'll get the wrong input message. Again, if I run this program, my first input is okay, but my second input is any character, then also I'm getting the same message. And if I'm giving proper input, for example 45, but my second number is 0, then I'm getting division by 0. So this is the simple try except block, and this is the try with multiple except statement. So these are some examples that you can use to write the answers which are on exception handling in Python programming language. Now the next part is, if you know the exception name, then you can write it in front of except keyword. But if you don't know the exception name, then how you will handle that? So for that we have another facility in Python, that is we write the code to monitor for exception in try block. But if you don't know the name of exception, then you can just write except keyword and in front of that colon, and after you can write the or print the message to the user. Let us take one example for this. Now suppose in this case I don't know this exception name 0 division error, so I am just deleting this, writing this in comment. and just now see here, if I write first number or if I input first number as any character name, then also I am getting division by 0, because after executing the first statement the exception is thrown to the except block, and as name of the exception is not written, it is considered by the Python that some of the exception is thrown and the message to the user is given, is printed at the time of printing the output. So of course I need to change this message, that is improper, or you can say invalid input. So if you are entering the wrong input, either first number will be wrong, second number will be wrong, the output will be same, that is invalid input. But if you enter proper numbers, proper division will be executing, then no exception will be thrown and no message will be printed to the user. So let us again execute this. Enter first number f in valid input. Suppose first number is 56, second number is j. Invalid input. Suppose first number is 67, second number is 0. Invalid input. And suppose first number is 45 and second number is 9. Then the proper output is displayed. This is all about try, except, except with exception name, multiple except, and except without exception name. Now this is we were discussing about to handle all exceptions or unknown exceptions. Now the next part is, if you want to print the inbuilt exception or message to the user, then how to handle the exception with messages. So let us try with this, but before that you should know the syntax. So as always, try code will contain the code which you have to monitor for exception, and except will contain the name of exception, and you have to store that name in any object, like as the name of object, and then at the time of printing the message you will print message and then the object name. Let us try this. Suppose in this example, suppose I write value error as v, and here I am printing just v. Here I am commenting the example and just now here if I enter r instead of any number and press enter, then I'll get the message invalid return for int with base 10 r. That means now this is inbuilt message to the user, but in the form of exception and not the error. But if I run this program, if I write first number correctly and second is 0, then of course now I am getting the division by 0, because I am not handling here division by 0 error. So I need to handle this error also. This will be handled like this. So suppose I run this program, my first number is 56, second number is 0, and division by 0 message is printed to the user. Now here this message is not my own message, but this message is by the Python programming language. So this is also possible in Python programming language. Except exception as any object name, and you can just print the object. Now the further session will continue in the second lecture.